Hey guys, editing Nicole. So I wanted to record this prelude for a couple of reasons so that you understand kind of what's going on as we're watching the video. So this is one of the presentations from an event called the Boss Up Summit. The Boss Up Summit is organized by somebody named Jeanne Marie. She's a professor and a graduate from the Wharton School of Business. And she is doing this 20-day thing where she has women come on and talk about their field of expertise. At least that's what it's billed as. What you're going to notice is the person that she's interviewing is named Julia. And I am not going to at all go hard for Julia for a couple of reasons. Number one, she's young. Number two, she is clearly trying to make a pivot. And I say that based on the fact that her Instagram hasn't been updated for over 2 years. And she's a micro influencer. And on LinkedIn, which is where she seems to be active and where she's sending people to at the end of this broadcast, she has an open for work badge on her profile. So I think this young woman is trying to shift away from business ownership and is trying to get a job. Now, what I was initially confused about is, okay, why is she coming on a conference and talking about being an influencer? And what I realized is that I think Jeanne Marie is trying to help her get a job. Come on my conference and I'll showcase you as a social media expert, and I'm going to have hundreds of women attending, and maybe this will get you a job. So what you'll notice in this video is I am not at all going hard at Julia. I am all about somebody making a change and not being the middle-aged woman on the internet that is making that change in any way hard. I think Julia does know about social media marketing. I just really wish Jeanne would have actually asked some questions about it. What you'll notice in this video is instead, I'm going harder on Jeanne Marie. She is the organizer of the conference. She is in charge of this discussion, of the questions being asked, of how it's being edited, and how it's being uploaded. The other thing I want to say is that in critiquing Jeanne Marie, or in critiquing any woman that is on the Nicole Reacts playlist, I am not critiquing all women. I think that we should not blindly agree with anybody who shares our race, our gender, our sexual orientation, or anything else. What you'll notice on this channel is I concentrate on ideas, I concentrate on information presented, I concentrate on the quality of the presentation, how organized the person is. These are things I feel like are fair criticisms. I am not knocking off another woman's crown. Point being is on this broadcast, we are all on Team Julia here, okay? We want her to get a job that she wants and deserves. And I'm willing to get on Team Jeanne Marie if she stops trying to sell this very mediocre content. I think there's people are actually both pretty intelligent women who could have had a good discussion if it was actually structured correctly. We're on Team Julia watching this video. We're on Team Julia in the comments of this video. And we understand that we can criticize this conference without going after Julia because she doesn't deserve that. Let's get this party started. Hi, Barbies, Kens, theys, and thems. Welcome to a special edition of Nicole Reacts, where I, Nicole, react to online marketing gurus that I find or who find me or that other people help me find on the internet. And my qualifications for snark and commentary are that I've owned a legitimate marketing company for almost 16 years. And in that time, I've worked with hundreds of clients on marketing strategy and implementation. So I think I know a fair bit when it comes to online marketing. So basically, how this person got on my radar, Jeanne Marie, was I got an email from her, and on the bottom of it, it said purchase lead. So that leads me to believe that I was bought from another list and added to her list, and it was all about her Boss Up Summit. I feel like my crown is slipping. Where's the other woman that's supposed to be here to fix my crown when it's slipping? Oh. Basically, Jeanne Marie is having this kind of 20-day long summit, and every day is a different woman presenting on her subject matter expertise. And what's really weird, in case you don't watch the previous video, which I'll link in the show notes, is that I just want to tell you before you see this branding that all of this is geared theoretically at Gen Z women. Now, I myself am an elder millennial. I kind of am at the Gen X millennial cusp. This branding, even though I am not Gen Z, I can tell you that this is not branding. I don't think that would speak to Gen Z. But the idea with this content is that It's for everybody, but in particular, it's geared at Gen Z. Now, the last video, I was really sad because I was like, "Oh, I wish I would have brought in the tiara that Jessica got me and the I am Knuff mug that Ben got me." So, I have both today. I don't think this is gonna stay on, like, because it's annoying me and because it literally keeps falling off. I clearly don't know how to wear this, but I thought it was really sweet that when Jessica met me, she was like, "You deserve a tiara because you're an awesome person," essentially. So, I appreciate the sentiment. Today's video we're gonna watch is called Bossing Up Your Instagram. Jeanne Marie as the host of the video, and she's talking with Julia Seraphine. I went to go learn about Julia Seraphine, and this is what her website looks like right now. I think you might want to renew your Squarespace, Julia. So this summit has been filmed. It's available for free if you join the email list. And if you want to pay, you can have longer term access to the videos. I believe you get access to a Facebook account, the typical kind of membership community model that we see these gurus have. And while this video is recorded for Gen Z people, it is for everyone. So keep that in mind. Let's see what Julia has to say about Instagram and what kinds of questions and ideas that Jeanne Marie brings out of her as the host of this video. Okay, this feels a lot better for me. Now, since the last video, I figured out how to make them full screen, and I had criticized a couple of gurus on this. So when I hover over this in the player, it says Wistia on the bottom. And remember how I talked about how gurus will put things on YouTube that are clearly supposed to be behind some kind of paywall or videos only certain people should be accessing. So Jeanne Marie here has put these videos in a hosted video service so that not random people can come across them. And this video is expiring in 10 hours, which is why I had to record it today.
Welcome back to the Boss Up Like a Queen Summit, ladies. It is a beautiful, gorgeous day because we get to have one of.
So notice that her crown is glitching out. So like mine is like real. Can I wear it at the same time? Oh, okay. You know what? I think I can wear it at the same time because my headphones are kind of keeping it in place. I'll have to ask Jessica how I'm supposed to keep it in place. Just notice that her crown is a filter, but my crown's real. Just saying.
My favorite queens, Julia Seraphine, here with us today. Okay, I don't even know where to start how to introduce this woman. Okay, she is a digital marketing expert. Check. She is a micro influencer. Woo! An award-winning speaker. She was nominated for the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. Hello. And she is just magnifique. All right, Julia, welcome to the show.
Hello, Queen Jeanne. Hello, everyone in the Boss Up Summit. How are you today?
We are going to talk to Julia today about how she's bossed up her social, meaning her social media, and how she took it from 0 to thousands of followers to become a micro influencer. And she's going to give us some tips and tricks on that. But
posting consistent content, running ads, collaborating with other creators. If you do those three things, you can get to thousands of followers given enough time.
Also, I have to add this.
Okay.
Julia wrote my acknowledgement endorsement for my book. So I am so grateful, so thankful that she felt it within her heart to do that. And it's amazing. I'm not going to tell you what it said because it's just, it'll make me cry. But it's amazing.
Oh, I'm going to cry. I'm going to cry.
I know, getting all emotional. That's what we do. We're girls, girly girls. And yeah.
You know who also has emotions? Men. Men also have emotions. I'm really curious how these two know each other. Clearly, they have some familiarity if Julia wrote an acknowledgement section in her book. So I'm just wondering, is Julia a former student? Did they meet at some like conference or something and connect that way? There's clearly some history there, and I'm just really curious kind of how they initially met, but I'm not sure if that will be answered.
Yeah, so Julie and I have known each other now for a few years. We worked together. She's been a guest speaker in a couple of my classes that I teach, and which is
okay. And Worked together could mean that Jeanne Marie hired Julia, or that they worked at the same company, or Julia hired Jeanne Marie, which I don't think that's happening, but maybe the other way around.
A real treat for the students to hear about her success. And so, Julia, let's talk
Hello.
about your bossing up your social and how you became an Instagram phenomenon.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's see, where do I start? I guess I first started to get really interested in Instagram specifically when I started my associate's degree back in like 2016. Feels like ages ago from now.
I started my company in 2008.
Ages.
So back
I'm clearly ancient.
then, I was like working at a Walgreens after I go to school, right?
Mhm.
So like I'd go to school during the day and then I'd come home and like go to work at Walgreens. But then on the weekend, that's like Julia time, you know? That's the time when I really want to like be myself. So I was making an effort to like I don't know, take pictures of like all the cool stuff that I was doing. At the time, I was going to school in New Haven, which is near Yale, and people in the area are like really interested in the scene. So I would like take pictures at like the art gallery or like downtown or like at the shops at Yale. I was like really interested in it, even though, you know, I don't go to Yale. I made sure people know that I'm not like pretending to go there. um at the same time, I also started doing like digital marketing, social media, and it was more just like a really small scale thing at the time. And I wanted my Instagram to sort of be the face of that and like have it be like a living portfolio of sort of like my own social media, digital marketing interests. So I'd make sure sometimes in the captions, I would have like little advice here or there about like social media or digital marketing. And eventually it got to the point where like I had like two like main audiences on Instagram. One of them was there for like the business side of things, and the other was there for sort of like the lifestyle content that like, oh, this is what it's like in the area near Yale, which is, you know, hip and happening. It's all cool down there. And over the years, like,
Well, all us Yale wannabes, you know, there's a lot
yeah,
of us.
oh, I go to Columbia now, so I guess I'm a Columbia current person, not even a
And in case you don't watch my last video, so Jeanne Marie is actually a graduate of the Wharton School of Business. So, like, she has, and I'm not sure, I don't think that's considered an Ivy League, but it is a really good school. And Columbia is also a really good school. And again, I'm not sure if that's technically an Ivy League, it might be. So, these are two intelligent women who have got into good schools. You know what I mean?
wannabe.
Excuse me, Ivy Queen. Okay, yes, all right. So the essence of Yale channeled into Columbia. Mm-hmm.
Thank you, thank you. And then just like over the years, as I made like a consistent effort to post, um, I made sure that like I was actively engaging my followers. And eventually it became that like I felt like a genuine, authentic connection with my audience. And that sort of lent itself to like my Instagram, which I think at its largest was like 25K in like 2019, 2020.
That is bossing up huge. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
You.
What? Well, I mean, okay. Let's not just put that under the carpet.
Yeah, it's quite the accomplishment to get to that point, and it sounds like she said, like, it was at a maximum of that, so I'm guessing she has less followers now, and I'm not saying that that's necessarily a bad thing. Every platform has this period of kind of rapid growth and stagnation, so if you think about Facebook, right? I'm trying to think. So, I think I joined Facebook in 2007? Growth, 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 growth. Oh, 2010 still doing, and then it kinda plateaued, right? Then Instagram, I feel like the same thing, growth, 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 growth. And then I feel like it's kind of plateaued, which is why they're trying all this new stuff now on Instagram. TikTok is going to do the exact same thing. I feel like it's still in a growth period, but it's getting to the top of that growth period, to be honest with you. I think probably another couple of years and then it's going to stagnate. And that's because there's going to be something new on the scene. And some people are going to move to that new thing. And a core group of people are going to stick around to the older thing. Followers can't keep going up and up all the time because A, you only know and connect with a certain amount of people, and B, the platforms themselves are not going to stay popular or at that point of growth really forever.
Hello, 25,000 followers on Instagram is huge.
It
That's why
is.
you became and you were an influencer. But like, why was this? The thing I love about it is that you connected so well with these people and two different, like you said, two different pillars of people. But why was this so important to you?
Hmm. I guess this was important to me because I was at a really rough time in my life. Like everyone has like, rough spots here and there.
Oh
I
yes, girl.
know that things like were like so tough for me at the time, especially because like I was spending most of my life going to school during the day and then working at night. And I was just going through, like family stuff, personal stuff. But Instagram felt like an escape to me. It felt like I could sort of live this idealized version of myself that like it felt like on Instagram all the time that I would spend on the weekends was like my entire life. And it felt like that sort of extension of who I was started to represent like what I wanted to be and who I wanted to become. And it felt more and more like, if I could achieve this, then like I could actually like make a start for myself somewhere.
Okay, so you basically manifest.
I don't know how I feel about her saying this. I mean, it is honest, which I appreciate, but there is something to be said with the fact that some platforms, like I think about Instagram, I think about Pinterest, and even like YouTube, where like the sort of image stuff really matters. Whereas if you look at, say, like Facebook or X or Reddit, that's the sort of appearance part of it is much less important. But I think there are platforms that are like, here is my idealized life. And I would say that Pinterest and Instagram kind of being the main two because it is a lot easier to manipulate still images than it is to do that with video necessarily. So Jeanne Marie is going to frame this like, oh, you manifested this. And there are a lot of self-helpy things like act the way you want to feel and vision boards and things like that. And there's something to be said for keeping in mind what you want in your life. And if documenting like fun experiences and putting them online makes you want to do more fun experiences, I think that that could be good for you.
Yeah.
You manifested your vision, which is something we should talk about because I feel like Julie is an inspiration. That's why I wanted to have her on the show because ever since I met her, I was like enamored by this accomplishment. Um, she wasn't formally trained on it. She just did it. It like grew organically and she took the vision and she made it happen. And I think so many of us really, have these things that we want to do in our lives. And you said it's an idealized version of yourself, but it really was yourself. I mean,
Yeah.
that was who you were. That was who you were because
I'll be really curious 'cause she has like 25-ish thousand Instagram followers. She said she had two main audiences, one that was kind of following her for sort of Instagram social media tips and another that was a more local audience. I'm curious if she's still trying to do both with that account or if she kind of picked a lane and went into it.
there was no way that you would have connected with all those people if it weren't genuine.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's some pretty terrible people that have pretty big audiences that pretend to genuinely connect with them. I don't know if this is necessarily true, Jean
I really
Marie.
wanted it to feel like this is the extension of myself into the internet. This is my most
And I'm not saying that Julia wasn't being authentic. I'm just saying that her being like, "Well, you wouldn't have a big audience if you weren't authentic." I'm saying that part isn't true. I'm not saying it's Julia is not true. I'm saying that that idea is not true.
sort of authentic self represented online.
Amazing. And it worked. And so then you took this. Sorry, I just get so excited about the story. I have to like tell it. I have to like try even like get in your business and tell it.
That's
But
totally fine.
but she took it and she made it into a viable business for herself. So talk about that. Like how did you learn what to do and how did you make it so successful? What was like your secret?
People ask me this all the time too. They assume I have a degree in marketing, and I don't. I have a degree in geology and in French. But the reality is, if you know what you're doing, it kind of doesn't matter. I think I've had exactly 3 people over the last 16 years ask me where I went to college or what I majored in or something like that. But most people just want to know that you're competent. Be curious if she actually has a marketing degree, though.
Sauce.
Hmm. I guess starting with the whole secret sauce thing, I was into digital marketing like ever since I was a kid. Like I'm
I can't say that because it didn't exist when I was a kid, but I can say that my sister and I made an awful lot of movies with my parents' old camera, the big kind that like sits on your shoulder. And I was constantly like making up magazines. I would like, draw them all out. And I always was writing stories. So there was some kind of creative components in my early life that predate what I'm doing now. So it's not completely out of nowhere. But I just love how she's like, I've been creating digital media since I was a kid. Cause, if you're Gen Z, you could totally say that because these things have existed for like 20 years.
sure some people in the audience who have kids right now know the site Roblox. It's very popular amongst
Love
like the
Roblox.
generation below
Yes.
mine. But when I was a kid, when I was only 9 years old, that was like the place to be for me and my friends. And I was like really interested in the whole like Roblox fashion scene, which is it sounds so asinine right now, but like when I was a kid, that was like everything.
If you think about what anybody was into when they were a kid, what was culturally big at any moment, it's gonna sound a little silly, 20 years later, but Julia, don't be hard on yourself. It's okay to be into what you were into.
Okay, it's
So
not.
like
I just was on a webinar last week with Roblox, and
really,
panel. Yes, they had a panel. It was called "What's Next for the Future of Digital Self-Expression," which is exactly what you're talking about, and how Gen Z is. It's so important for Gen Z to have a digital self-expression in fashion. And of course, Roblox was hosting it, and so they were talking about it. And the VP of Metaverse for Gucci was on there. The
wow.
head of Road Business was on there talking about why this is so important, and it is for digital fashion and like the future of digital fashion. So yes, girl, you are ahead.
This digital fashion thing is really interesting. I guess my only kind of experience with it is like my friends' kids who play Fortnite, and there's these skins, like outfits basically you get within Fortnite, and some of them can be really expensive. But it's interesting now that there used to be this barrier, even like when I was first starting my business, this idea that people didn't want to pay money for like digital assets. And I feel like now people are much more comfortable buying things that only exist in a digital world or paying for things on their phone. There is a lot more comfort with that. And it's really changed a lot, in particular in the last like 10, 15 years.
Of your time, even then.
That was all the way back in like 2008, 2009. Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
all the
I'm
way.
like 10 years ahead of the curve
All the way back to my first 2 and 3 years in business.
at that point.
Yeah.
So like I was like really interested in like making clothes for the characters to wear. Um at first it was just like me making the clothes and then just like sharing them with my little friend group on the site. And then
This reminds me, I met a guy in a coffee shop once and we started talking. And one of the ways that he made money was he was a musician for hire in Second Life. So in Second Life, like you could hire him to come play guitar at your Second Life party. And again, this is a virtual world. He made like at the time $50 an hour. And this is back in like 2010. There is this whole universe if you're not kind of into Roblox or not into Second Life or not into these kind of virtual worlds, there is this whole part of the economy that I think that a lot of us are not like super familiar with that actually makes money in the real world.
I they implemented groups into the site, which is like sort of like Facebook groups, but for Roblox, where like groups can like gather and talk about a specific shared interest. And I was like, oh, I want to take this like fashion group idea and like run with it. I know that like some of my friends like to have like fashion shows here and there. And I was just like, all right, I want to have like a group for like fashion shows. And that's like it. And we talk about like clothes and like just expressing ourselves online basically. And back then I was like super into the whole like princess thing, right?
Oh my
So I love like queen and princess stuff, right?
God.
And like I also had like a place for the fashion shows, which was like a runway, sort of like, like Project Runway. I was like really into that back then too. So like on the site, you could advertise. You could use like the in-game currency to like bid on advertisements, and they'd give you like feedback like, oh, this is like your cost per click. This is like the percentage of people who clicked, who like compared to like seeing it like they clicked. Like I was like super into it. And I used that to sort of like teach myself like, hey, like this is how you advertise things online. And at first it was like slow going because like I didn't know anything. I was like 9, 10 years old at the time. This is like 15 years ago. So like I taught myself like everything. I was like super into it. I would come home from school and it would be like Roblox. Summer break, Roblox, everything Roblox all the time. Super like digital native behavior.
Super.
So like
It's like you were like a child prodigy at this point.
yeah, I like to think of myself like that as well, but others have said yes. The whole
Yes.
like prodigy thing, especially because like I have a learning disability. So like having that sort of like accomplishment at a young age, I sort of earned that title and like stuff like that.
Absolutely.
I had an
And let me
IQ
just
test
say,
yesterday.
Does anybody else who's watching this who's neurospicy? I have hyperfixations too. I feel like the word prodigy implies that you're naturally just good at something. Like you sit in front of a piano and can hear a song for the first time and then just play it or something. I feel like that's what I think of with prodigy. It sounds like she worked really hard on developing her skills. So I'm not saying that she's not smart, but I'm saying that it sounds like there was a lot of learning here in a way that I think sometimes the word prodigy doesn't really imply, but
Crazy.
that is just, again, a testament to why it's so inspiring to hear your story,
Thank
because
you.
you took the disability and you were like, F it. I don't even care. It's not an obstacle. And like in life, I mean, maybe we don't have a disability, but we have other obstacles. And that's why the summit, that was my inspiration behind the summit, because it's like, look, you need to get to next. What is it that you're trying to boss up to do? And let's give you some inspiration, some magic, some women to help support you to do it, because you can't always do it alone. Right. So
Yeah,
then
like it's huge to have a network of people just like yourself,
Mhm.
especially women. Like we need to hold each other up and support each other.
it's
That's the
so
only
true.
way to get ahead.
It's the only way. So how did you do that? So when you started getting into it and getting into the analytics and learning Instagram, did you have
Well, she hasn't talked about getting to Instagram. So all this is happening on Roblox, right? Her experience. And I'm not saying that obviously bidding on ads and then seeing their performance and looking at the data and improving them, obviously that's a transferable skill, whether you're running ads on Roblox or Instagram or YouTube or anywhere else, right? When you have those skills, you can apply them other places. But she hasn't made the leap to Instagram yet. So I'm kind of curious if we're going to get that background.
a group of women that, kind of helped you, lifted you up?
Yeah. So
Awesome.
like I would split that into like two time periods. So like the first was like when I was getting my associate's degree, like 2016 to 2019. First it was just me and like me just sitting in the library like reading about like marketing and stuff at school. And when I had to do extracurriculars and sort of like extra classes, they make you take like, oh, like you have to take one class about like this and one class about that. And I was like, oh, well, like this one like business class, like marketing class, really seems interesting to me. And I had this teacher, her name is Professor Luglio. Shout out Professor Luglio.
Shout out
At
to the prof. Yes.
She was such a queen. She supported me so much, even though I felt like I was like just beginning and I was like just starting out with the whole like digital marketing, freelancing, turning that into a business. And she really supported me, especially like I was still like super in a bad financial spot at the time, but she helped me despite like all the barriers that I had to entry. And she sort of helped me like overcome them, and she introduced me to like the business scene in New Haven, like entrepreneurship, Score, the Entrepreneurship Foundation, where I later ended up working for a time period, um, and like all these business events and incubators. Her and the other people in the New Haven Score chapter were like super huge for me. And all the other women business owners who were like student business owners, like me and them, we were like, oh my god, we were like this, we were like super close at the time. Every time there's a business event, I was like all over it.
So, if you're watching this video and you've been thinking that you want to start a business, I'm going to tell you that one of the most important things that you can do is to build and maintain your network. So, for example, I'm connected to my friend Jen. Jen is talking to her friend who doesn't know me, Pat. And so Pat tells Jen, "Oh, I'm having a really hard time keeping Instagram and all this stuff up to date." So Jen, because I maintain friendship and a network with her, she's like, "Well, you know what? I actually have a friend who does that. Let me introduce you to Nicole." So that's how we get, honestly, a lot of work is from people who know us, who we've either done work for or who just like are aware of what I'm doing. I have somebody who I've never actively worked with who sent me like 3 clients just because we connected at an event and we keep in touch. And she's been really good about sending us clients randomly, even though she hasn't worked directly with me before. One of the very first things that I bought as a business owner was actually I went halvesies with my friend Matt Baya, who owns a hosting company. Shout out to Savaha. We were both living in the same region and we were doing workshops and we wanted to do more workshops together. And what we realized was that if we were going to do a workshop somewhere and we had to talk about the internet, we had to be able to put the internet onto a screen and show people. But if we had to rely on someone else bringing a projector, we had to worry like, okay, is there going to be a flat enough wall to project onto? Are people going to be able to see it? So we just went halvesies on this projector and screen and thought, now we can do these workshops wherever we want. And so I would say for the first 5 years I was in business, I did at least 50 workshops. And basically, I would not only host my own workshops that people would pay to attend, but also I would go talk free in front of any group that would have me. Regional business nonprofit wanted me to come talk about the internet? Sure. Local Rotary Club has a lunchtime speaker for their meetings. Get on that agenda. Chamber of Commerce wants to do a lunch and learn. Great. Let's charge people 25 bucks a head, make you guys some money and get me in front of 20 to 30 people. So, by doing these speaking events, because I'm really comfortable speaking, obviously, I was able to meet hundreds of people that I wouldn't have met otherwise, and they watched me present about a topic that I know about. And then we would connect on LinkedIn afterward or elsewhere. And over time, I built this very good, very strong network. And when I started being like, okay, I'm only going to be in Maine part time, I'm going to be in New York most of the time. I had to start building my network in New York as well. So I started doing workshops. I started going to any kind of mixer I could get to. I started to be like, "Hey, can I bring you for coffee and can we talk?" And I would ask people, "Who are other people I should meet?" And I would write it down and I would email these people. I'd be like, "Hey, Deborah, Fred said that you're one of the people that I should meet because of X, Y, and Z, and you sound great, and I would love to take you for coffee sometime." And just talk about what this community is like and learn all I can because I would really like to be a part of things. And while my New York network isn't nearly as strong as my main network, I built the main one over 15 years and have been maintaining it. And I've only built the New York one over 4 years and have been maintaining it. I'm starting to get some traction in New York, but it's taken a little while. Now, if this sounds miserable to you, I will say I'm not sure how much you will enjoy business ownership because it is a lot of that. I would say the only exception is let's say that you were 5 friends and you each had your own business and all did coding or something and you were all able to share work, refer it to each other and stuff like that. I think that could work out well because ideally the 5 of you are all interacting with different people and have different amounts of work coming in at different times. But I will say if you want to be a standalone kind of business owner, growing and maintaining that network is a big part of that. You can do things like run ads and find other ways to connect with people you want to do business with, but I find maintaining a network not only is fulfilling for me because I have a personal relationship with people that I like and trust and that it's goes both ways, but it is the consistent way I get consistent work and have for over a decade. Getting off my networking soapbox here.
Yeah, like that was like my main girl crew at the time. And then after I graduated, I still attended events with them and I was still like a digital marketing mentor after I graduated. I still met with them and I still made an effort to like, basically like spread the love forward. After I started to become successful, I wanted to share, like, all right, this is what I did, and this is what you can do too, because you guys are students right now. That was like my whole main thing. And then after that,
That's so amazing. Yeah, that is like what we need, right? We need more of that because
I think so too. Yeah.
you don't learn all of it in school. You learn a lot in school. I mean, I'm a professor, so I hope people learn. But the truth is, the skills are different, right? When you get out there and then you started your business. And I love that you were just so motivated to start it, and then like you started getting clients. And how did that go? Like, how were you able to get clients and keep clients and manage all that?
Yeah, like it was really tricky at first. Like back when I first started, it was just like, oh, like here or there, like small scale stuff. But things really kicked up after I graduated, or like around the time before I just graduated. It was like, I think some of my first clients were related to the work that I was doing when I was at school at like the New Haven Score, the Entrepreneurship Foundation, and all these business events.
Yeah, and she's really running in the right circles when you think about it. When I first started, I did a lot of work with my local SCORE office doing workshops, and they sent me some clients. I worked with a regional economic development group called New Ventures, which was at the time focused a lot on women starting businesses. So that was a natural connection. I worked with the University of Maine Center for Innovation, training their interns on social media stuff. So these were all kind of good groups of people because they're working with either very small businesses or like really cutting edge businesses that are just starting, who don't necessarily have a giant marketing budget. So they were really great at feeding me clients.
Those were like my first, those were where my first clients would
Yeah.
come from. And I sort of took that momentum of like getting my first few clients, and I used the funds to like start an LLC, which I think everyone needs, is like super important. Um, and then I also took the money and I sort of like used it to market myself as well in the area. So I'd do like Instagram ad, LinkedIn ad, stuff like that. And then I really started to get traction after I used LinkedIn. I thought like, oh, LinkedIn is for like old people. I'm not going to use that.
Yeah, but LinkedIn is where company decision makers are. I think like 65% or something of people on LinkedIn have the ability to make at least some of the decisions within their company. So it is a good place to advertise if you have business to business services.
And I looked into it for like more than an hour, which most people should do when they're doing research about things.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, this is not like an old people thing for old people. This is like where business happens. And I made a page for myself, and I sort of like branded myself, like, oh, like I'm interested in digital marketing. I have a little digital marketing thing going on. And then I started sending out connection requests. And I was like, oh, no one's going to add me. Like, I just started my account. Like, who cares? And it got to a point where I was like growing and growing. I was like, what the heck? It's like
Yeah.
watering a plant, and then the plant grows. And it's like, what?
That's
I
that.
got to
That's
like
how the plant
5,000
grows.
followers really
Hunter,
fast.
you have 15,000 followers
If you would stop interrupting, she could talk about it.
on LinkedIn right now, right?
Um, I think it's like 13,500 at the time, at this
Oh,
time. Yeah. I was inactive for a little while, so I lost some, but I'm trying to, like make friends and grow back a little bit. But like I got my main like growth after I started to like put myself out there on LinkedIn, network, and make a conscious effort of like showing what I'm interested in to like other people. And I think one of like the big things for me was like one of the connection requests that I sent was for someone who did like networking events in like the New York City area. And I was already like familiar with the area because like, I would go there sometimes. I'm from Connecticut. So like a lot of the people that live in Connecticut because you could take the train to the city. And that's
that's
like what I do. So like they had a networking event at like USA Today, and I ended up meeting so many people. Like some of them would end up becoming like my first like larger clients. and one of them was Jean's friend. And then they introduced me to Jean.
I was hoping we'd get the backstory here. Okay, that makes sense. So she's networking in person, notice, to get the bigger clients. And so something I struggled with during the pandemic was trying to figure out, okay, if I want some bigger clients in addition to my small business clients, how do I meet these people? And so this is excellent. So she went to a networking event at USA Today in New York City. And there is something to be said about FaceTime. In particular, if someone is going to deal with you digitally, that's one thing, but people really like that personal connection. So finding ways to meet people in real life, I think, is really important.
Yes, that's how we met
It's like,
Victor. Shout out to
yeah,
Victor Lee.
shout out Victor. How
He's
are
a
you doing,
good pup. We
Victor?
still
Shout
love
out.
him. Yep. Yep. He better be checking in. Better be checking this
He
summit.
has to. And
Yes.
then, like, meeting Jean, like, back to the question earlier about like having a girl group like support you. Jean has been like, she's been like my business mom. She's like adopted me as like her business daughter, it feels like. So like I really like, I love Jean so much. So much.
Feeling is
And
mutual.
I feel like I couldn't have done it without her.
Oh my God. Oh my God. You are so, oh, my heart. Wait, but I don't have a daughter. So yeah, you're like my business daughter. I never even thought of that.
Business
Yes,
stuff.
I'm a business daughter. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for adopting me.
Hello.
I've worked for some really incredible women over the years too, who have, yeah, I was their marketing service provider, but I consider them also some really big mentors for me. It's really important to have kind of people that you look up to, people you can ask questions to. And I have a few of those people in my life who I really admire, some of whom I've gotten the privilege to work with too.
Well, that's how we roll. We have to help each other and lift each other up. And that is exactly, again, that's the point of the summit. That's the point of having beautiful people like the Queen Jewels on here to tell her story. Because I feel like so many people, young women today, especially, I mean, I'm trying to figure out, the influencer thing too, right? And my journey.
Jeanne Marie wants to be an influencer? That's so interesting.
But there are, and I work with a lot of Gen Zers, obviously, as a professor, and they want to be influencers. What would be your advice, Queen Jules, to give these women?
I guess first and foremost, when I first started doing social media, I was like approaching it like how a business person would, like how I would have when I was like doing like a little bit of like digital advertising on Roblox. I was like, oh, it's all about numbers, 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 numbers. But then when I started seeing all of the people on social media as like individuals, like that really sort of changed my perspective on things. Like, for example, it's not like, oh, I have followers in like the fashion niche. It's like, oh, well, this is my follower and they really like fashion. And I'm going to like leave authentic likes and comments on their posts because I genuinely want to interact with them. And being genuine with other people in the niche that you're trying to promote yourself in is like probably the best thing that you could do to start out. And it's probably the fastest way that I've grown. I went from like, oh, I have maybe like 2,000, 3,000 followers to like, to quickly getting to like 10, 11, 12K just from genuinely interacting with others and liking or commenting, making friends online.
So she's networking here, right? She is building and maintaining her network. She's just doing it via Instagram comments and messages and follows.
Like every follower that you have is like a person. And when you start seeing everyone as like, oh, well, this is like a person and like I could genuinely interact with them, like they're just like one of my friends from school or like one of my friends that I go online with. Like they're all people.
Mhm.
And if you start to approach marketing from that, like you become authentic. And that's like people can tell if you're being authentic or not.
One of the top 3 qualities you can have as a marketer is empathy, because when you are producing content, we are thinking about, okay, how will the business owner feel about this content? Will they feel like it's presents them in a good way? Will they feel like it's effective? Will they feel like it was worth doing? And then the person receiving the marketing, this, shouldn't be actively harming them. Are they gonna find it interesting or useful or cool? Is it gonna be worth their time spent watching this video, for example? So, when I think about every piece of content we make, whether that's a social media post or whether that's an email newsletter or something like that for a client, I think through both of those audiences and how they're gonna feel about the content that we make.
So being authentic, I think, is like the best thing.
Mhm.
I mean, it's social media. Being
I think authentic is important, but I think the empathy part, like how it extends to others, is also important.
social, being
Yeah,
social, being yourself.
that's the media for being social.
It is, it is, and it's like they're customers to some degree, and if you put them first and treat them that way, that's fantastic advice. I love that. Think of them as people. I mean, think of followers as people. They are. They absolutely are.
Yeah. When
So
you have 100 followers, it feels like, oh, I don't have very many followers. That's 100 people. That's
exactly.
amazing.
That's 100.
How would it feel if you're in a room of like 100 people?
So I think this is true, and it's a kind of a common thing we say in social media, right? Like if you do a live stream and only 6 people watch it live, what you tell yourself is like, okay, if 6 people walked into my business right now, I'd be really excited about that. And to some extent, that's true. But I think the advice that people want to get is okay, so I want to be an influencer. I want to get to 25,000 followers so that I can start approaching companies and maybe start getting paid to do this. How do I get there? And I really hope that she gets to answering those kind of questions with a little bit more tactical ideas. Even if the tactical ideas are do these kinds of content or you can run these kinds of ads or things like that.
You'd be like, wow, there's people everywhere. This is such a crowded room. Think of it like that.
That's great. It's a great analogy. Really, really great. Ah, love it.
Have you not heard this analogy before, Jean Marie?
Um, so okay, so then Julia, had this flourishing social media, digital marketing agency business. And she actually even hired one of our students to work with her.
Yeah.
And student got such a great, her name is Sarah. She's gonna be at the summit. Hi Sarah, shout out.
Hi, Sarah. How
And
are you?
she,
Thank you for working with me.
oh my God, she loved it. And she had such a great experience. And I really think that inspired her. So I just want to give my gratitude to Julia for doing that, right?
I appreciate hearing Julia's story. I guess this training is called How to Boss Up Your Instagram. I still don't know how to do that besides being genuine.
For spreading
Thank
the
you.
love and for what
Thank
you
you.
do in these communities um, of female, business owners, and the inspiration that you provide and the services that you do, even the social media that you do, paid. I mean, it's just, it needs to be done and it's a need and you're serving a need and you're serving your peeps.
And I'm
So
serving too. I'm serving looks. I'm just messing around.
wait, let's talk
She's a little goofy. I kind of like
about your
that.
jewelry business for a minute. What's going on with that?
Can we get some Instagram tips? I mean, listen,
Isn't that part of your Instagram story as
Yeah.
well?
So that was such a long time ago for me, but like that was like my first like business
this is a business I don't even run anymore, Jean Marie. Why are we talking about it?
venture, like my first like real business. Like at first it was like a project that I was doing for school, like way in the beginning of when I started taking like business and marketing classes. And the SCORE chapter in New Haven, and especially Professor Luglio, shout out Professor Luglio
I
again.
love this professor. I really need to meet her.
So
She needs to be
nice.
on the summit. Yes.
She is so cool. And like she sort of helped me with like in class stuff. And then I would meet her like after class and she'd help me like genuinely create a business out of it because I was so passionate about it. And I wanted it to be like, oh, like you could dress like royalty, like on a budget. So I called it the Princess Gem Store because it's where the princesses buy their gems, you know?
Well, we love the
And
princess. Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
yeah,
the princess and the royalty, and that's all about the queens. Princess.
exactly. Thank you. And I took like jewelry that I had like sourced from all different places and like refurbished. And then I also took jewelry from like distributors who made like high quality jewelry at like a good price. And I made sure, there's like hypoallergenic options because a lot of people are allergic to like metals and stuff. And I was able to like sell it online on like a web store, and I used social media to sort of promote that. And then when there would be business events at school or business events in like New Haven, I would use that opportunity to sell jewelry to like directly to customers. And I stopped doing that because like the digital marketing agency, like it took off. Like when I say took off, it took off like a rocket. It was crazy. And then I was like, I do not have time for the jewelry store anymore. I have to focus on the digital marketing. But it was like one of my main forays into business.
Well, I think why I brought that up is because things don't happen overnight. It was a journey for you, and I think you have a natural, innate business sense because not everyone can take a passion and turn it into a profitable business. And
Thank you.
that is what you offer to this world. How did you do that? And I think so many people want more, right? They want to know they want to know more, like what exactly did you do, right? It is.
I think this is Jeanne Marie's way of trying to ask her for some tactical advice, I think.
So we're getting ready to wrap, but I have a couple things left we still need to talk about. One, what's next for the Queen Jewels? Do we
How am I gonna boss up my Instagram?
know?
Let's see. I guess I just want to find the opportunity to sort of take my digital marketing to the next level.
Busting
Whether,
up, busting it
yeah,
up.
exactly. I want to boss up like real hardcore. I want to be the boss of the boss. I want to be the boss's boss. I want to. I'm just fooling around, but like whether it be that I start doing like the business again, like running the digital marketing business again, or whether
So she was running a digital marketing business and now isn't anymore? Is it because she's a full-time influencer? I'm a little confused here.
I sort of like join a company and see like if they'll take me on if they want like a consultant who has like business experience and digital marketing experience at the same time. Either of those two things really. I'm looking for the opportunity to keep doing what I love, which is digital marketing.
Okay, they'd be crazy not to take someone like you. Okay, they'd be crazy. So
Thank you.
I know it's gonna happen. Whatever you put your
Okay, so she's looking for a job. So I thought her digital marketing agency really took off, so I'm not quite sure what happened.
it just happens because you're Queen Jules. Jules. Actually like Jules,
Thank
but
you. Thank you.
and so we gotta leave these guys, gals, with one piece of advice to boss up from the Queen Jules. One thing.
Let's see. I think my best advice would be the difference between like a dream and a goal is action. So it becomes a goal when you actually start to put yourself out there, when you take conscious steps and make an effort to make your dreams come true. All of a sudden it becomes less like some idea in your head or a dream that you have, and it becomes something that you can do. Because genuinely, like I did not think that I would be as successful as I am today. Like genuinely, I was like, oh, I'll just do whatever when I graduate. But then I didn't expect all of this. And it didn't feel real until I actually started to like look into business, and I started putting myself out there, and I started teaching myself things because, like nobody knows everything like right from the start. Even
Yeah.
someone as smart as myself, has to learn stuff also.
Thing about you is this
And the other thing too is that just because something is true at one point doesn't mean it continues to be true. So for example, with some of my clients, TripAdvisor and Yelp was like super important. But now Google Reviews has really overtaken all these review websites. So now my approach would be different than it was 5 or 6 years ago in terms of what sites do we want to be on and actively maintaining. It's important also to not just learn something one time, but to continue to revisit it and relearn so that your information continues to be accurate.
so humble. I mean, that's why I really think another reason why you attract so much success because you're very humble and you didn't expect it, but you put the plan and you did the work. And I
Yeah.
myself learn so much every time I speak to you. Even now, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm thinking, because I put myself out there with the summit, and I put it in. It was a vision, it was a dream, and then I put it into action. And I feel like that is such great advice. That is such great advice,
Thank
because
you.
so many of us have these things, and that's what I mean about bossing up. Boss the f up. You know, get
Yeah,
into action.
exactly.
Get into
Boss
action. So
up.
it,
She's a micro influencer, so clearly she gets paid to produce content on the internet. And it sounds like a lot of people have approached her because they want to do the same thing. It sounds like Jeanne Marie's students are like, hey, I want to be influencer. What should I do? I really wish she'd be like, if you want to get paid to post content, here are the first kind of 3 steps to get you started. Maybe 3 steps are commit to a regular posting schedule. The sub goals of that are I'm going to post 3 times a week on Instagram Reels. I'm going to post on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Okay, what kinds of content do I want to post? Well, I want local businesses to pay me. So every Monday, I'm going to feature a cool local thing to do. And every Wednesday, I'm going to talk about a local food restaurant, that kind of thing. And every Friday, I'm going to talk about an upcoming local event. Okay, all right. Now I need to make the content. I'm going to go film this thing. I need some footage of this location. Okay, now I've taken all this footage ahead of time. I probably want to put it in folders on my computer so that when I'm ready to edit these reels, like I can, find it and stuff like that. Maybe I want to save some cool trending sounds or videos that I want to riff on. I want to save them in Instagram so that they're ready to go. And then maybe part of that is like I need to take my lunch break on Tuesdays and Thursdays and edit videos during my lunch break to make sure that they get done in time. So step 1, I am posting 3 times a week on Instagram. Step 2, I am going to sign up with some influencer directories. Here are 3 of my favorite ones. I'm going to go sign up for them. You can find other ones and just kind of put out there that you are willing to be an influencer. Obviously, part of that is filling out a profile, linking to your Instagram account. And that step 3 is I am going to email or direct message on Instagram at least one company every single day that I want to work with. Even if they reject me, that's fine. It's going to help me work on my pitch. It's going to help me get feedback on the content I'm producing. And eventually, someone's going to say yes. So I'm not sure if those are the best 3 steps to become a micro influencer, but they're 3 legitimate steps, right? And in giving people on this call some actionable items, I think that would really help them. But
it's true. Boss up like a queen. All right. So
I'm the
Jules,
queen.
first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to
Thank you
be
for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
for sharing all those gems, those jewels. And I know that you're offering a special gift to our attendees. So do you want to tell them what it is?
Yes, it is the gift of me, of course, the best gift that I can give. In a more realistic note, the gift is if you click on my LinkedIn link that I have so generously provided, you can message me, and I would love to schedule a call with you for 15 minutes for free because it's a gift,
It's a gift.
where I give you social media and digital marketing advice about the existing social media that you have, and also like any questions that you have. You have my undivided attention and all of the advice that I could give on the phone when we could schedule a call. Just message me on LinkedIn.
it's interesting she's sending people to LinkedIn and not to Instagram or to a website. I just want to remind everyone watching here, I do a 30-minute free consultation to anyone who books on our website. So I'm not sure how much you can get done in 15 minutes. Honestly, even 30 usually feels pretty rushed. I actually block off an hour. So if you're not a weirdo, I'm happy to stay on with you for longer than half an hour. I'm not sure how much you can get done in 15 minutes. I'll be completely honest with you, but
So heartfelt. Make sure you talk about boss up in the message. Make sure.
Yes, please let me know that that's where you came from.
Thank you, Jules. What a heartfelt, beautiful gift. I might be calling you too for that.
Do it. Yeah, I'd love to talk to you. Thank you.
I'd love to talk to you about your social media marketing, Jeanne Marie, especially if you're aiming for Gen Z.
Any excuse I can get to get her on the phone. All right, everyone, let's thank her again. Jules, thanks for
Thank
being
you,
here.
Julia. Oh,
Namaste.
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you so much. The rest of you, will see you on the summit. Keep tuning in and have a royal, fabulous, queenly day. XOXO and boss up.
Boss
Let
up.
me.
You got this.
My God. Okay. It sounds like based on the fact that Julia said in this session that she's open to taking on a digital marketing role in a bigger company, and she sent people to her LinkedIn where she is open to work and positioning herself as a subject matter expert. I'm wondering if she's kind of pivoting away from business ownership to this new thing. But at the same time, she's inviting people to have a consultation, and her Instagram is talking about how she has a social media agency and is linking to what sounds like, at least at one point, was her social media agency website. Now, listen, I want to be clear. I have absolutely zero beef with Julia. She seems lovely and she does seem to know what she's doing. I have some beef with how this event is organized because I would understand if this event was always going to be free. Because part of consuming free content like you're consuming right now is the person talks about whatever they want to talk about. And if you get one or two little nuggets of information, or if you laugh a couple of times, like that's great. But it's kind of like you get what you get. But if you were paying for content from me, I should be giving you some tactical ideas. I should be giving you some additional resources. I should be building a lot of value that you feel like was worth paying for. But based on the two presentations we've seen, it's just people telling their stories, which is fine, but I don't wanna pay for that kind of content. I can get that kind of content from a lot of different places. Now, if Jeanne Marie is watching this or someone like her and says, "Well, I wanna organize a digital summit and I want people to pay to come," I understand it's a lot of work to organize something like this, but we need to give people enough value that they wanna pay for it. So let me give you a couple of ideas of what it could be. Number 1, information density. So, the 2 times that I paid for digital passes to conferences I've gone to are either there was multiple sessions going on at the same time, and I didn't get to go to both of them, and I was sad to miss the information for one of them, or I was taking notes and I was like, "I'd really like to watch this again because I don't think I got everything in the notes." So I want almost to feel like I'm drinking from the fire hose a little tiny bit to make it so that I know that I'm getting a lot of information and I will pay to get that information again to make sure I didn't miss anything. So I might tell all my speakers, for example, "Hey, everyone, I'm going to talk to all of you for an hour each. And I want very specific things from these presentations. So because of that, I'm willing to pay you each a stipend to develop this content because I want it to be information dense. And I want the following in all of your presentations. Number 1, what is the number one thing that you want Gen Z to know about your industry that they don't already know? And I'm going to ask you kind of why about it if you don't get into the why about it. So kind of be ready for that. Number 2, I'm gonna ask you for some tactical steps about things you've accomplished. So, "Oh, you're a micro influencer? You've reached 25,000 fans. Let's talk about 5 tactical ways that people watching this could get toward that goal of having 25,000 fans or followers." So, maybe they talk about buying ads, maybe they talk about, like, how they built relationships with people, something like that, right? I want 5 very tactical things and details about it. And the third thing I want is what are the 3 problems you feel like people run into the most during this process, and how would you fix them? Okay, so the 3 problems that I see people run into when they try to be micro influencer are that they don't know how to negotiate brand deals, so they, like, tend to get underpaid or they only get offered free product, and how do you, like, have the conversation about money? I see that people stagnate in their fans and they get to a certain point and then they can't get beyond that unless they buy ads or do something else. And here are some of the things to kind of get you over a plateau. And I noticed that a lot of people don't seem to know how to make compelling content that brands like. Here's an example of a video that's kind of meh that I made like early in my career. Here's an example of a recent video I did. Let's talk about the differences between these 2 things, like why this one is really great and why this one was meh, and you can take that and bring it to your own content. Wouldn't that have been a lot more interesting than what we watched? Again, if I want to know someone's backstory, I'll go to their website. I just need an abbreviated backstory at the beginning, maybe to just kind of understand where this person's coming from. But so information density is really important. The second thing you could offer for me to pay for is one-to-one connections. So let's say that I sign up for this workshop and you ask me in the registration, great, what are 3 kinds of people you would like to meet at this workshop? Well, I would really like to meet the CMO of a larger company to get feedback on my product offerings. I would like to meet with people who consult small businesses so that I can network with them so that they can send me clients. And I would like to meet other people in and around upstate New York so I can build my local network. And then you go through the registrations and you say, "Oh, Nicole, you should meet Harriet. Harriet is the CMO of this medium-sized company in Boston. She's coming to the Boston Summit. So you connect us and let us have a one-on-one meeting. And you promise me 3 kind of useful connections to people I don't know that are based on the kinds of people I want to meet." I'd pay for that. And the third thing I would pay for is an online community that is actively maintained. Now, several times Jeanne Marie talked about the Facebook group of all the boss ladies. But what I want to do is I want to see some sample posts of that group. Is it going to be a bunch of people trying to sell their MLM products? Is it a ghost town and no one's posted in 3 weeks? You know what I mean? Like how the community is maintained is really important to me. And some groups are really great and some groups are not so much. So I want to see an example of how the group works. I want to be able to see some posts in there and see if it would be valuable to me before I would pay to access the content and the community that comes with it. So that's all we got for the Boss Up Summit. I'm not going to cover any more of this content. I just was really hoping that the Instagram one was going to be about Instagram, and I just really wanted an excuse to wear my tiara and be in my Barbie zone here. So thanks so much for watching. If you like this content, there's a playlist on the Breaking Even Communications YouTube channel, or if you go to breakingeveninc.com/blog and click on Nicole Reacts, you'll be able to see all the posts there. If you have a specific video, a concept you want me to talk about on this channel, you can leave it as a comment on this video. Or if you're more shy, you can use the contact form of our website, breakingeveninc.com/contact, and tell me privately there, and it'll just be between us. If you want to lightly keep in touch, a good way to do it is with our newsletter, breakingeveninc.com/newsletter. We'll let you see some past issues, and there's a sign up form on that page. And as a reminder, we do consultations for people who want them. You can go to breakingeveninc.com and just click on the consultation button. It is throughout the website. I can't even tell you like one place it is because it's a lot of places. And we can totally talk about your marketing needs. So thanks so much for watching. And remember, these gurus will just keep on coming. But the good news is you have a friend, and that's me in the marketing business who's not afraid to call them on all their bullshit. Take care.